Good morning and welcome to Northern Lights Spiritual Center. My name is Reverend Vaughn Amare and I'm here today with Reverend Michael Amare and with our practitioner Stephanie Scranton, who will be doing our meditation and reading, and to our founding minister, Reverend Pamelagrace Beatty. Northern Lights Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Lights Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. And we promise to inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. And this is adapted from the Duwamish land, tribal land acknowledgement. We must acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including our culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horror of the transatlantic trafficking of their people, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little and no recognition. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifices, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can be still felt and witnessed today. Please join me for our opening song, In This Very Room, by Ron and Carol Harris, or be sung to, if you prefer that. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's prepare for this morning's meditation by allowing ourselves to get comfortable in our seats, removing everything from our laps, having our feet firmly planted on the floor, and if it serves you, allowing your eyes to close. And let's take 3 deep cleansing breaths in and out together. So let's breathe in and let it go. And breathe in again and let it go. And one more time in and let it go. And as we allow our breath to return to its normal rhythm, let us notice if there's any part of our body that's holding on. And if you find such a place, just say to it, relax, release, and let go. Relax, release, and let go. And so this morning's meditation is around contemplating the thought that past experiences have no power over me. I take dominion. Past experiences have no power over me. I take dominion. So I'd like to bring to mind a past experience that has had some pull over you, some power over you. Maybe it was in your upbringing. Maybe it was at your job. Maybe it's something in your family. Maybe it's something that you did. Maybe it's something you experienced just a moment ago. Bring it to mind and say to it, you have no power over me. I take dominion. You have no power over me. I take dominion. You have no power over me. I take dominion. And now bring to mind another experience, another condition, another thought that has had power over you. And say to it, you have no power over me. I take dominion. You have no power over me. I take dominion. You have no power over me. I take dominion. So let's take a deep breath in. Just allow ourselves to settle in. And bring up another condition, experience, thought, belief. And say to it, you have no power over me. I take dominion. You have no power over me. I take dominion. You have no power over me. I take dominion. And so be with your thoughts and anything that comes up that you have some charge around. Say to it, you have no power over me. I take dominion. And just be with us for a few more moments. And so let us allow ourselves to come back into this room, back into this space. But we come back transformed, knowing that at any moment and in any moment, any circumstance, any condition, any thought, any belief that is contrary to our highest and best, we can say to it, you have no power over me. I take dominion. And it's in this knowingness, I simply say, Ashe, Amen, and so it is. Thank you. So this morning's reading, again, comes off my phone. There isn't an author. I don't know why, but there isn't. The name of it is Your Past Does Not Define Your Future. Have you ever felt bogged down by your past mistakes? Do you sometimes have regrets about things that you have done or neglected to do? Have you had bad things happen to you that were unjustified and unfair? If so, I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. I would also like to assure you that your past does not have to weigh you down and determine your future. It is true that your current life is to a large extent the result of your past actions, choices, and experiences. The great news, however, is that your future is determined by how you act in the present moment. In other words, your past does not have to define, as I fall over. Okay. Your past does not have to define you or your future. All of us have made our share of mistakes, and I certainly am proof of that. Most of us has also experienced bad situations that were not necessarily our fault. Some of us have experienced circumstances so bad that they could be completely considered traumatic. I know that I have made many mistakes and bad choices in my own life in the past. I've hurt people who did not deserve to get hurt, wasted precious time, told lies, neglected my health, taken my parents for granted, and been selfish and self-centered. I also have been the victim of bullying in high school, as well as other injustices that were not my fault. As a result, I have had regrets, experienced guilt, and felt anger toward those who wronged me in the past. These feelings of regret, guilt, resentment, and anger used to weigh me down and affect my outlook on life. I felt like I was living in the past even though I knew that I could not change what transpired. I wanted to progress and move forward, but I was futilely trying to get ahead while constantly looking into the rearview mirror, and then something changed. I had an epiphany. I realized that my past only had a grip on the present because I allowed it. I decided to accept the fact that I could not change the past and also embrace the notion that I had complete autonomy to make wise choices in the past moments. Another thing I did was to forgive myself for my past mistakes and also forgive those who had caused me hurt. It was a liberating moment for me. No matter what has happened in your past, you can choose how much power over your current life you want to afford it. You cannot change the past, but you can choose how you react to it. Here are some things to think about that might set you free and allow you to live the life that you deserve to live. The first one is you are wiser now. Despite the severity or magnitude of your past mistakes, you can choose to look at them differently. Instead of viewing them with constant regret, try to see them as valuable lessons that you can use today. If you have neglected your health, become overweight, gotten divorced, lied, hurt others, wasted time, or a large sum of money, etc., you can come to the realization that you are wiser now for your experiences. You are not the person that you once used to be, and therefore do not have to make the same mistakes that you once made. Make the conscious choice to forgive yourself for your past mistakes and constantly remind yourself that you are more evolved, matured, and learned from your errors. Accept the fact that you cannot change your past, but you certainly can choose to react differently to it. Remember that your old baggage is only bogging you down and preventing you from moving forward in your life. Contrary to what some people believe, you do not have to continuously punish yourself for past wrongdoings in order to be sorry. If you want to make amends, do so and move on. Become the best person you can be, because this empowers you to give back to others and the world at large. The next one, you do not have to be a victim any longer. Just because you were taken advantage of, bullied, hurt, or treated unfairly by others, sometimes those closest to you, it does not mean that you need to keep on suffering. You can choose to stop reliving the past in your head over and over again. In fact, it is often your mind constantly replaying a past negative event that causes you substantially more suffering than the actual event itself. You do not have to play the role of victim anymore. You are a resilient survivor. It is within your power to choose how to view bad things that have happened to you in the past. It is your right and also has the key to freedom. The next one is, you can forgive yourself and others. Having forgiven those who have inflicted hurt on me in the past, I can attest to the fact that forgiveness is liberating. As Ann Landers, I don't know who remembers Ann Landers, but as Ann Landers once said, hanging on to your resentment is letting someone you despise live rent-free in your head. I'm going to say that one more time. Hanging on to resentment is letting someone you despise live rent-free in your head. You did not choose to forgive others because you want to condone or justify what they did. You choose to forgive others because it sets you free. You can also make the conscious choice to forgive yourself for your own mistakes. Nobody is perfect, and there are probably thousands of others in the world who have made similar mistakes in their lives. You do not deserve to serve a self-imposed life sentence to atone for the wrong you have done or had choices you made. Practice self-compassion in the way that everyone else would like to be treated. What if you choose to look at your past differently? How does that relate to your current life? Here are just a few empowering possibilities. You can succeed in business even if you have failed before. You can get in shape even if you have been overweight for the longest time. You can enjoy a happy relationship even if you have made mistakes in a previous one. You can experience abundance even if you grew up poor. You can be a good parent even if your parents were less than ideal. You can be happy even if you have experienced tremendous sadness. You can obtain your dream job even if you were fired from the last 2 jobs. You can get your degree even if you neglected education in the past. You can learn to trust again even though others have betrayed you. You can make wise choices even if you have made unwise ones in the past. You can be a resilient survivor of a bad situation rather than a reoccurring victim. Your past, no matter how bad it was, does not define your future. The choice and actions you make today will ultimately define who you will eventually become. Make the decision to learn from your past and apply it to the present so that you can live the life you were meant to live. You deserve it. And so it is.
So the words to this month's chant are home, nestled at the core of my being, taken wherever I go, the place I feel safe, and seeing the love and acceptance I know. Home gives me my roots, home lifts my wings to soar, home lives in pursuits, home raises my voice to roar. So please feel free to join in if you'd like. Please be sung too if you'd prefer that. At the core of my being, taken wherever I go, the place I feel safe and seeing, the love and acceptance I know. Home gives me my roots, my wings to soar. Home lives in pursuit. Home raises my voice to roar. Now you. Home, nestled at the core of your being, taken wherever you go, the place you feel safe and seeing, the love and acceptance you know. Home gives you your roots, home lifts your wings to soar. Lives in pursuit. Home raises your voice to roar. Now we. Home, nestled at the core of our being, taken wherever we go, the place we feel safe and seeing, the love and acceptance we know. Home gives us our roots, home lifts our wings to soar. Home lives in pursuit. Our voice to roar. Now we come back to I and my and me. Home, nestled at the core of my being, taken wherever I go, the place I feel safe and seeing, the love and acceptance I know. Home gives me my roots, home gives my wings to soar. Home lives in pursuits. Home raises my voice to roar. Home. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning in here and out in out in Zoom land. So good to see you. I'm Reverend Pamela. Y'all know who I am.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm an evolving expression of spirit and form. That's who I am. And I'm here to talk about home yet again. And I know you've heard several talks about home, and get to another one. I thought this topic was interesting today because I used to be a flight attendant, and I never reached enough seniority to be able to be home on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So for a number of years, I had Christmas and Thanksgiving with kind people who either felt sorry for me, or I had the worst Thanksgiving dinners ever on the airplane. Really, really, really bad, really bad. And so I always had this yearning to have my celebrations at home, and I had this idealized vision of the joy of being at home and being in the room full of 30 to 40 people eating turkey and talking to everybody, and oh, how I missed it. The interesting thing was I got to see a whole lot of other people's Thanksgivings and Christmases, and that was very interesting. And I remember having a conversation with a friend, and he was talking about somebody's dysfunctional family. And he was just going, oh no, they're so dysfunctional. They this, they that, they this, they that. So home for these folks was like not where they wanted to be. And as I heard people talk about dysfunctional families, and as I thought about families and what I'd seen, I asked them, what's a functional family look like? And frankly, I still don't know, because I have never seen one. All of them have some degree of dysfunction. And I thought I'd talk about that a little bit today, because it's something to think about. And the Center for Disease and Disease Control did a study some years ago, and they came up with something they called ACEs, like kings, queens, aces. And you could Google that. I'm not going to go into the detail of it. There's a lot of information around it. But what ACEs stands for is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And in their initial research, where they talked to a lot of people and so on, they got a list of 10 elements, but they grouped them in 3 categories. So people who experience adverse childhood situations, it grouped under either abuse, neglect, or household challenges. And I do volunteer work with foster children. And the reason they get taken away from their families and put into the foster care system is because somewhere in there, they're experiencing some form of abuse, neglect, or inside the house. So abuse includes physical abuse, emotional, and sexual abuse. And early on, I understood physical abuse and sexual abuse. I knew what that meant. But I didn't understand emotional abuse. And I had this friend who was a good friend of mine. We were both in dance class together. And she said that her mother left her to be abused by her father emotionally. And she had been in therapy for 14 years behind being emotionally abused by her father. And I thought, I'll tell you what I really thought. I thought, white people are funny. I never heard no black people talk about being emotionally abused. We had enough problems with what we were dealing with to worry about emotional abuse. Then one day I ended up in a situation where I got to experience emotional abuse, and I no longer laugh. It is real, and it isn't something we know much about. So physical, sexual, and emotional is under the first category. Neglect encompasses physical and emotional neglect. The physical, people end up in the foster care system because their parents aren't there. They're not feeding them, they're not clothing them, they're not sending them to school. That's the, oops, I just left it. The second level of abuse, neglect. And you can read terror stories of it in the newspapers around how children have been neglected. There was one thing also that I learned while working with foster care children. The first 2 years are crucial. You would think that all of the childhood would be crucial, and it is important. But the first 2 years, if the children don't get the love, attachment, don't get this love and the support and the food and the caring and the taking care of, and if they don't learn within those 2 years that they're going to be taken care of, that somebody loves them. And it doesn't even have to be inside the parents. It could be the grandparents. It could be an auntie. It could be someone in the child's life who lets them know that they are a valued being in this world and that they are safe. If they don't get that, it's a rocky road from there on out until they learn to take care of it themselves. And the emotional neglect can be there as well. There was someone in my family who had a whole bunch of kids, and I don't remember ever seeing her hold and cuddle her babies. And the family, the children grew up to have various struggles and problems and issues, and some tragic, some just sad. And I remember that they never had, that I ever saw, and we were there frequently, I never saw them being held tenderly or loved. They were taken care of, they were fed, they were clothed. But on the emotional level, I don't think they got that. And then the household challenges. Growing up in a household where somebody's been in and out of jail or is just in jail, period. Growing up in a household where there's mental illness. I believe, having observed one household within our group of friends and relatives, where definitely one of the parents had mental illness, and I believe it transferred to one of the children. I almost feel like it was a virus. I guess the behaviorists would say it was a matter of behavior, that this is what she observed in her father, and so that was the behavior she took on. But this one, was never normal and was
was never able to relate well with other people. Substance abuse, substance use. Also in this category of household challenges, parental divorces or separations, or intimate partner violence. So the children are not necessarily physically abused, but the partners, the parents, are fighting physically and abusing each other. I would go so far as to say it would also could include emotional abuse, how the parents talk to each other and treat each other. So according to the Center for Disease and Control, here you are in this home with this stuff going on. And according to their studies, they said only 1/3 of the population has none of this happening. I don't even believe that. But they said 2/3 of the population has at least one of these elements going on in their world as they grew up from their homes. And they said that the more elements of these 10 things that I've just gone over were in the children's experience, the more they had, the more difficult their lives were. It affected the children's behavior. It affected their behavior as adults. It affected their health. There was a correlation between these childhood experiences and diabetes, depression, incarceration, and so on and so on. And they could see that the more they had, the worse off the folks were. With the exception of those who said, I'm not going to let this be the all of me or the whole of me. The people who became aware and who were awake, as what Stephanie was reading in her reading, the people who take control of their lives and say, fine, this does not define who I am. Now think about it. How many folks do you know who are still being run by that stuff back there? Who is still saying, what was it someone said she wanted? She wanted, oh gosh, I can't remember, but I'll say it was a hula hoop. She wanted a hula hoop, and she never got the hula hoop. Oh, it was a Raggedy Ann doll. That's what it was. She wanted a Raggedy Ann doll. She'd always wanted a Raggedy Ann doll. And she finally got a Raggedy Ann doll, and she's probably about 65. And that Raggedy Ann doll is sitting in a chair with some other toys that she's received as gifts. But she had so wanted this Raggedy Ann doll. She had not let go of it, and I don't blame her because I had my mother make me one. I felt the same way. But those are not things that are going to impact my health and my life going forward, not having a Raggedy Ann doll. But we do carry stuff forward with us that impacts it. Also, in reading about ACEs, they're acknowledging that the 10 elements that CDC uncovered, that there's more than just those 10. So those 10 are the first basics, but there's also poverty. Totally affects people all their lives, and these diseases, not having enough to eat, not being warm, and there's something they call it food scarcity. Having been brought up where food was scarce impacts the child for the rest of its life. And even with the folks who get out of it, for some reason, just out of the blue, I read a couple of books. I get audio books. And I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, but they were about two people who were raised in adverse circumstances. And both of these folks were white. One was raised in Appalachia, and her experiences growing up as a child were just horrendous. She was out working with the boys. She was sexually abused by one of her brothers. The father abused everybody and was a drunk and would beat the mama, and it went on, and they didn't have enough food, and they weren't sent to school because you probably know this book, because he thought that was the establishment and he didn't want those people shaping his people and his family, and so on and so on. The heroine of the story in this hero's journey, or in this case, Shiro's journey, ultimately taught herself, and she was so smart that when she finally got into school, she somehow managed that. The teachers realized how smart she was, and they took her under wing. She went through college. She was very successful, and she never got over her upbringing. She always wanted to please the parents and that father and so on. So she moved beyond her circumstances, but still this life had impacted her. And the other story was the same thing. He was an Appalachian, the guy, but he was raised, I don't remember the details of his background. He ended up going to Harvard, but he never got over his background, and he never felt good enough. In spite of the fact that he was smart as a whip, smart as anybody in the group, he was not sophisticated. He had to learn all of that, and he never felt accepted. So there are these other things: poverty, racism, being in a country where you are on the wrong side of the war. You're the people they're killing. We've got all kinds of folks coming to our country from countries and experiences like that. So why am I going into all of that? Because although the Center for Disease and Control said 2/3 of the population experience that, I think that's a big number. And I think that there's even more. I also feel that we ignore it. We say, well, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that's behind me. And we don't recognize how it's impacting who we are today and how we are today. And it's very important to recognize that. As Stephanie said in her reading, we're different people now. We can take control. We can create lives we love living. I thought it was fascinating that as I was reading all about ACEs, that they were saying the same thing. They were saying, yeah, it's bad, it's awful, it impacts you, but it doesn't have to if you are aware of it and if you do something about it. It can be as simple as rewriting your story. This is a story I've always told about my childhood. I never got my Raggedy Ann doll. Boo-hoo. I could write a totally different story than I have about all of the stuff I did get. I was talking to a friend of mine about my sad story at a previous church, and I didn't talk about my sad story. I asked her what was her experience. Can I mention who her was?
Oh, it's me, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. Since you're looking at me, okay, I'll be the her.
We're always on her list.
It was Stephanie, our practitioner. She and I went to the same church, and she and I went through the same process to become practitioners. And I will tell you that it must have touched all my aces and stuff because it was tough. It was really hard. So I asked Stephanie what she liked about it, and she gave this list of 10 things. I learned a lot and so on and so on. And I was like, I didn't look at it that way. But you know what? You're right. That is true. We learned a lot. We had information. We actually had very deep practitioner training. It was a little painful.
A lot painful.
Stephanie says a lot painful, and I co-sign on that. It was not what I thought my spiritual experience was going to be.
It wasn't spiritual.
Well, yeah, the spiritual stuff was lacking a little.
Yeah.
But
In the
we
delivery.
learned how to deal with some stuff we
Yeah.
would not have known how to deal with.
Yep.
When I got out of that training, I said, nobody's ever going to bully me again. I don't care. I will take no prisoners the next time. Up until then, I'd been a kind of nice little person that rolled along with stuff. Not anymore. So that was a good learning. However, in listening to Stephanie, I thought, well, I could rewrite some of my story on that, because there were some good things, and I'll tell on Seattle. When I moved up here, both Stephanie and I have helped panel new practitioners into being practitioners, and we have been surprised at how sweet and nice and
Uninformed.
clueless
Yeah.
they are about people and how to deal with them, because we learned back where we came from. We were put through it was like hardcore Marine training, only they called it practitioner training. So she and I think I can speak for her, we both agree that we were grateful for the experience we had. It was hard, it was tough, it wasn't fun, and it wasn't what I dreamed it would be. But it prepared me to take on stuff I never dreamed I would be asked to take on. And I was able to take it on because of what we'd been through. And with the background that we may have come from, because of that, we can be a different place in the world. We can advocate for those who have had the same experience, or we can empathize in ways we never could have or would have had we had a nice, sweet little life and everything had gone our way. So it is important to take a look at our childhood, take the rose-colored glasses off, because sometimes, just as with the story with the young woman who was so smart and got herself to school and through college, there's this don't tell. Whatever's going on in this house, don't you go out and tell it. Particularly in abusive situations. People who are treating their children right and who are having a good life, they don't say don't tell. They don't even think don't tell. So if you're being told don't tell, that's what you need to tell right away to somebody, ASAP. It can be awkward at first to breach that command, especially from our parents who have a very heavy impact on us. But it's so important, because it's like Stephanie said in her reading about holding a grudge, allowing somebody rent-free space in your mind that you don't even like. And I have met people who have overcome amazing abuse and neglect. And I've met them, and I know one person who's like a vice president of an organization, and she was one of the loveliest people I ever met. And when she told me what happened to her as a young person, a teenager, I couldn't believe that she could still walk in the world like she did. But she did. She's amazing. So she is not special. Other folks can do that. Whatever it is that we're trying to get over, we can do that. Another thing about ACEs is there's a continuum. So they'll say abuse and neglect and household challenges, but and if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 of them, then you'll have more of an impact on your life. But your 2 or your 3 or your 4 and the impact of them is not necessarily the same. Even if I have the same 2 or 3s, the impact on me and the way it rolled out within me is not the same as how it rolled out on you. So even if I said, wow, I have 4 of the 10 on the list and we have the same 4, the impact is not necessarily the same. The flavor of it isn't even the same. What someone might call sexual abuse, I might call cynical, emotional abuse. I might call cynicism and ignore it. So I could ignore it, whereas this person took it to heart and allowed it to define them. So same item, different feeling around it. And that's just important, as if you look this up and decide, oh yeah, check, 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 even though you check those, they may not be the same for someone else. The other thing is, they've done some studies, and frankly, I knew this all along. I have been talking about it for some time. You could ask my dad, because I told him. Some information from our ancestors is in the body. Muscle memory, the body remembers. DNA, one of the things I was reading is it said they have these little flags that come from the people that we inherit our genes from, and these flags do this, that, and the other. And I thought that's a weird way of saying we remember what they experience. It's in our DNA. And they can be whoever we came from. And so far, they haven't done enough research to really get that down. But I've said for a long time that some stuff is just in our bodies. It's in our memories. And in fact, I was watching, and I don't know how true this is. So, it's like you see it on the internet, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But someone was saying on an Instagram that when a mother is pregnant with a child, that the cells, that she has some of the cells of the child in her and in her brain, and that therefore his conclusion was, if you're the daddy, you be nice to that child, because everything you do to the child, the mama feels that she's going to be mad at you. Which I thought was okay, but it does make sense that there's some connection, since the mother is growing the child within her own self, that there is a connection between the mother and the child. That's down to the cellular, literally the cellular level, because she produces him or her. But I still go back to race memory, is what we call it in science of mind. And that race memory is in all of us in the various ways that it shows up, including our people who came before us that we are related to. So it's also important to be able to pull that out and recognize that that's what we're reacting from. That may be a little far out, but you may recognize it the next time when you see it. So what's most important is that these experiences may have shaped us, but they do not define us. And we can step out of that. That's the beauty of having some kind of spiritual faith. Particularly, I like this spiritual philosophy because we co-create. We got game. We can use it or not, but we got it. should we choose to use it. We have a backup. We have spiritual backup that we know about that we can call on. In looking at the information on the internet, there were a number of different suggestions that were placed there for how to overcome the childhood experiences that might still be affecting us. Again, I suggest you tootle around that yourself and see what comes to you. The one that stuck in my mind was relationships. They said relationships are key. And we've talked about relationships and supportive relationships, not just any relationship, not putting yourself into the group of pity party people. Oh, ain't it awful? Oh, yes, it's awful. Oh, my God, what if he gets reelected? Oh, I don't want to go there. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, I think you did.
Delete. But avoid these pity party people. Avoid them. There is no good that comes of that other than they take you down. And don't be a pity party person that invited everybody else in either. Don't do it. But this supportive relationships, it really is key. To me, it's like, okay, maybe your family wasn't the family you really wanted. Build a new one. It can be done. Part of it is not only do you build a new one, but be open to having new people come into your life, people that care about you and that want the best for you and that love you. Open the door and let all of that in. It's nice. They said, get help, get therapy, psychologists, psychiatrists, groups, and I know they even had places where you could call and ideas and groups and that you could meet with online. If you look under ACEs, you'll find that stuff. And then they got to my favorite part. They said, well, you can meditate. It's like, oh, what concept? And then they described mindfulness. Meditation was under mindfulness. But it also, there was this, okay, so you don't want to sit down and go, Just carve some time out to just be. And I noticed when I was coming in this morning, I usually have the radio on, or I have music on, or I may have one of my Audible stories on. And I was like, let's turn that off and just look at this beautiful, beautiful morning. And the sky was so blue and the trees are turning, and it was a nice way to calm down versus coming in here charged with the latest bird song because I listened to the bird story and whatever. I was like, oh, I have permission to do time out. I have permission to just be. They also mentioned yoga. They mentioned staying physically active. There are any number of things we can do to undo what we feel may have done us in as we were growing up. A key thing, my favorite, is to know that your picture is on God's refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
That's my special one over there. Of course, I have 3 billion special ones, but that's a special one too. And also to remember that the universe is not against us. That is so important. That the universe is working for us. We just have to sit in that spot of knowing that regardless of what's running in front of us. And know that even if our worst nightmare comes into being, we still got game. Here I am in the worst of it, but there's a power bigger than I am that's going to see me through this one way or the other. There is that story about the farmer in some foreign land where, how does it go? Oh, his horses escaped during a storm. And the neighbor comes by and says, "Oh, look, your horses are gone. Oh, poor you." And the farmer says, "Maybe yes, maybe no." And then after things calm down, his horses come back with a whole bunch of wild horses following them. They'd made friends with a tribe of horses, and they said, "Come on, you can get free hay over where I live." And they came, and now the farmer had 5 times as many horses as he'd lost. And the neighbor came over and he said, "Oh, you're so lucky. Look at you, look at you, look at you. Look at all those horses your horses brought back. You are one lucky so-and-so." And the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The neighbor gave him the squinchy eye. And then the son, while trying to break these horses so that they could ride them, fell off and broke his arm. The neighbor came over and said, "Oh, poor you, look at that. Your son's arm is broken. Now he can't help you milk the cows or train the horses or nothing. Poor you, you got all those horses, you can't do anything about them." Oh. Yeah, like he was really sorry. The farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Then the local warlord of the country or that area came and was conscripting all able fighters, and they couldn't take the farmer's son because he had a broken arm. And the neighbor came over and said, "You're so lucky, you're so lucky. They took my son. They didn't take your son. You're so lucky." And the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Now, it's difficult to be that neutral about what's going on to us. But it does say something about getting too attached to either side. Being absolutely determined to just say, "Oh, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. Look what happened. Oh, I'm so happy. Oh, yeah. Or, "Oh, this is awful, this is awful." It's really good not to go to either one of those. Or if you do, to hold them lightly. So yes, I'm very happy, and I'm holding center. This is good. That's not so good. Unfortunately, all of it shall pass. I was very, very excited about a gig I just did. I was just so excited. It was at an arts and crafts fair that my sister and I have been going to regularly for years, and I even sat on the board of for about a year and decided that it wasn't quite me. So they invited me and my band to sing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so excited." I was beyond myself with joy. And it was the first time they had a gala Friday night event where they served appetizers and drinks, and people could wander through and look at all of the arts and crafts. They had to buy tickets. And it wasn't exactly like I thought it would be, because the place is a warehouse, it's an old Army base, Navy base. It's huge. People were wandering. The people who were sitting in front of us were chatting. My band set me up so I faced the walkway that they were walking through versus the people who were there, and they did it to protect me. They didn't want me to have my back to people going, so they thought this would be the best. Well, it wasn't really the best. I had to keep turning this way while I was singing. But I caught myself in the middle of saying, I caught myself and I said, "This is what you wanted. You thought this was just wonderful. So it is. So you just sing your little heart out, go on about your business. And that's what I did. And it was great fun. Once I got over, oh, this isn't exactly how I pictured it. Because so frequently when we get all excited about something and we think, yay, I finally got it, here it is. I'm married, they're the heart of my life, and then they leave their underwear on the floor. And they pick their nose or their teeth or something, and you're like, ooh. Anyway, I said, I don't care, I love it, and I had a great time, and I hope they do it again. So, maybe yes, maybe no, balance it out. The universe is not against us. The universe is for us. We can rewrite the story. You can get right down and literally rewrite it. You can add up what you didn't like about it and see how it made such a difference for you in your life. And how because of that, you are making a difference in other people's lives. How about them apples? So that's all I got. Thank you for being here. It's been a joy talking with you all. Practitioner Stephanie, would you close us out, please? Oh, my song.
You want the song first? Or?
Song first and then Stephanie.
Okay.
Sit down, Stephanie.
Okay.
Share.
Oh, there.
Share music.
This song was written and sung by Irene Boggs, Mary Manning Morrissey's daughter.
Oh. I tried to find a one with words, lyrics and stuff, but I couldn't find it, so this is what we have.
I'm a leader on the Maxwell team. I make a difference, achieving goals, building dreams. I'm a leader, speaking, teaching, coaching. I'm a leader, I got the leader in me. I'm winning with my day
Nice song.
Actually, you can save on all.
And we can save too. So let's just take a deep breath in and let it go. Whew. And just allow that breath to fill every cell of our bodies. Because in that breath is the breath of God. For God just simply is all that there is, and we are each one with this presence, one with this power. And so it's in this knowingness that we know and declare that we are the leaders. As the song reminded us, we are the leaders, and let us be and declare and know that we are the leaders of our lives right here and right now. No matter what has happened in our past, no matter what dysfunction we have experienced, we can now declare and know that we rise above it, that the power is within us because God has gone before and prepared the way. That God's got us, that we can do a fist bump with God and know that God's got it handled. And so let us stand in this knowingness from this moment on, declaring that we are the leaders, that we are the greatness, that we are the godness, that we are the allness, and declaring that our life is fabulous. Regardless of what anyone else has said, whatever anyone else has done, we have risen above it all. And so for this, I give thanks for this knowingness, for this beingness, for this declaration, for the permission to be the greatness that we are. And so I give thanks, I give thanks, I give thanks. As I release this word to the perfect action of the law, I simply let it go and I let it be, and I seal this by saying Ashe, Amen,
Amen.
and so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that beautiful prayer. And thank you, Reverend Pamela. I will be investigating ACEs. I don't know necessarily if that's a good idea, bad idea, but it's something I feel called to do after your talk. And I love the one statement the one question you ask is, what does a functional family look like?
Yeah.
You know, really, what we used to see on TV years ago. I don't know if you see it anymore. You know, like Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, all these different, you know, quote unquote perfect families, which, yeah, maybe not. And another thing about holding the ancestors, you know, what they experienced and stuff. We had gone through the NLP, neurolinguistics, and found out that, yeah, it is so true that actually experiencing it through a demonstration that we went through was quite enlightening, I guess you might say. And so this Friday starts our movie, holiday movie. We'll do that for 4 Fridays in a row. And this Friday is the movie. It's not really necessarily a holiday movie, but it's The Last Holiday with Queen Latifah. And I love that movie. So it's part of the holiday movies, you know.
Holiday movie.
Yes, it is. It's a holiday.
There's a holiday in the title.
So we start off with that one. And let's see, what else is there?
Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, Thanksgiving. Yeah, we had Thanksgiving families we were donating for. It's interesting this year because we got 2 that are taking the prepared meals and 2 that are taking the ingredients to prepare a meal. So, you know, it's a little different. But, you know, in a way it's kind of fun. For me, anyway, to organize, because I like to do that stuff. Anyway, and they will get that delivered to the school. I want to thank Tony for that. And Phyllis, who put us in touch with her for the last, I think, this is the 3rd year or 4th year that we've gone through Tony, and it makes it easy for somebody else to find the families. And so I'm grateful for everyone that has donated. And thank you, Victor. I did get your donation. I just want to make sure that I do that. And so I just want to close out with giving thanks for life. Each and every one of our lives is a precious thing. And I want to ask for everyone to hold the people that were killed and injured and family members in yet another shooting in a gay club in Colorado Springs. It was the first thing I heard this morning, and it didn't start my day off very well. But I would appreciate everyone to hold them, knowing that their lives do matter,
Yes.
and knowing that each one of our lives is so very precious. The love that connects us, the love that bonds us, is so real. We just have to allow it to be. Allow that love to connect each and every one of us, to awaken to that, to embrace it, to feel it, to be it. And so I give thanks, and I release this, knowing that the law does what it does. And so it is.